The story begins with Ivy, a confident and captivating 22-year-old woman known for her striking appearance and sharp intellect. Her long, wavy chestnut hair cascades down to her waist, and her almond-shaped eyes shift between green and hazel depending on the light, mesmerizing anyone who catches her gaze. Ivy has always had a magnetic presence, turning heads effortlessly with her natural beauty and self-assured demeanor. Beneath her confidence lies a sharp mind, one that often feels like both a gift and a curse, as she can see through people's intentions with unsettling clarity. This trait, however, leads her into a situation she never anticipated. A few weeks ago, Ivy's mother informed her that she would be spending time with her uncle James. James wasn't her uncle by blood but had married her mother's sister, Melissa. Ivy hadn't seen James in years, remembering only fragments of a man who seemed larger than life, tall, rugged, and endlessly charming. Back then, he was the kind of man who commanded attention in a room, always quick with a joke and a warm smile. But when Ivy arrived at James's house, she immediately sensed that something had shifted. The vibrant man she remembered now seemed weighed down by life, his energy dulled and his laughter almost a memory. Melissa, James's wife, was rarely home. Her absence was conspicuous, explained away as long hours at work or time spent with friends. When Melissa was around, the tension between her and James was almost suffocating. Their arguments, barely muffled by closed doors, were laced with accusations and resentment. James, however, never fought back. He absorbed Melissa's frustration in silence, his stormy blue eyes revealing the depth of his exhaustion. Despite his weariness, James still possessed an undeniable allure. His dark hair, always slightly disheveled, seemed to fall perfectly into place, and the stubble along his strong jawline added to his rugged appeal. His presence was magnetic, drawing Ivy in despite her best efforts to resist. Initially, Ivy dismissed the fluttering attraction she felt toward James as a passing infatuation. He was her uncle, albeit not by blood, and married to her aunt. It was wrong to even entertain such thoughts. But as the days turned into weeks, the connection between them grew impossible to ignore. Ivy noticed the way James's eyes lingered on her when he thought she wasn't looking, the subtle shifts in his posture when she entered the room, and the electricity that crackled in the air whenever they were near each other. It wasn't just her imagination, there was something there, something neither of them dared to acknowledge. Ivy's attempts to push her feelings aside only made them stronger. She found herself wanting to be near James, craving his attention. She began wearing slightly more revealing outfits, laughing a little louder when they talked, and letting her hand linger just a moment longer when she touched his arm. James never said anything, but his reactions were telling. His breathing would quicken when she was close, his gaze would darken with something unspoken, but he always pulled back, keeping a wall between them. His restraint only fueled Ivy's determination. The breaking point came when Melissa announced she would be going away for a work retreat, leaving Ivy and James alone in the house. The opportunity felt like fate, a chance to finally confront the feelings they had both been suppressing. The day Melissa left, Ivy made sure to be around James as much as possible. She wore a dress that hugged her curves in all the right places, and though James tried to avoid looking at her, Ivy caught the flicker of desire in his eyes. The tension between them reached a boiling point that evening. After dinner, James retreated to his room, and Ivy, unable to bear the silence any longer, decided to follow. She knocked softly on his door, barely waiting for a response before stepping inside. The room was dimly lit, and the sound of running water from the bathroom filled the space. Ivy sat on the edge of James's bed, her heart pounding as she rehearsed what she wanted to say. When James emerged from the bathroom, a towel wrapped around his waist, his damp skin glistening in the soft light, Ivy's resolve nearly crumbled. He looked like a vision, his broad chest and defined muscles captivating her. "Ivy," James said, his voice low and laced with confusion, "what are you doing here?" She stood, her throat dry, but she forced herself to speak. "I need to talk to you, James." James raised an eyebrow, crossing his arms over his chest. About what? Ivy took a deep breath, her voice trembling as she confessed. I know this is wrong, and I've tried to stop feeling this way, but I can't. I'm in love with you. I have been for a while. For a moment, silence hung between them like a heavy fog. James's expression was unreadable as he processed her words, his jaw tightening. Finally, he spoke, his voice steady but pained. Ivy, we can't. I'm your uncle, and I'm married. This can't happen. Ivy stepped closer, desperation filling her voice. Melissa doesn't care about you anymore, James. I see the way she treats you. She doesn't love you the way I do. James closed his eyes, as if trying to block out her words. This isn't about Melissa, he said quietly. This is about us. You're young, Ivy. You don't know what you're asking for. I know exactly what I'm asking for, she countered, her voice shaking. I want you, James. I want to be with you. The air between them crackled with tension as James struggled with his emotions. His deep blue eyes, filled with conflict, finally softened. Ivy, he whispered, I've been fighting this, but I can't stop thinking about you either. His words sent a surge of relief and exhilaration through Ivy. She closed the distance between them, and their lips met in a kiss that was slow and deliberate, each moment charged with years of unspoken desire. For a brief time, nothing else existed but them, wrapped in the intensity of the moment. But the fragile bubble they had created shattered when the door flew open. Standing in the doorway was Melissa, her face a mask of fury and disbelief. What the hell is going on here? She demanded, her voice trembling with rage. Standing in the doorway was Melissa, her face a mask of fury and disbelief. What the hell is going on here? She demanded, her voice trembling with rage. Ivy pulled away from James, her heart sinking as reality came crashing down. Melissa's eyes darted between them, her anger building with each passing second. You little how dare you, Melissa spat, stepping toward Ivy with clenched fists. How could you do this to me? To our family? Melissa, wait, James said, stepping between them, his tone pleading. It's not what you think. Not what I think, Melissa screamed, her voice cracking. I just walked in on my husband kissing my niece. What else could it possibly be? The confrontation spiraled into chaos as Melissa unleashed her fury. Her words cut deep, each one a sharp reminder of the betrayal Ivy and James had committed. Ivy tried to apologize, her voice faltering, but Melissa silenced her with a glare. You were like a daughter to me, Melissa said, her voice trembling with emotion. And this is how you repay me. Tears streamed down Ivy's face as the weight of her actions crashed over her. She had destroyed a family, and there was no undoing the damage. Melissa's final words were cold and resolute. I want you out of this house, now. James tried to intervene. Melissa, please. No, Melissa snapped, her tone unwavering. You don't get to defend her, James. She's leaving. Ivy nodded, her voice barely a whisper. It's fine, she said, her words breaking under the strain of her emotions. She gathered her belongings with trembling hands and walked to the door. The sound of the door closing behind her felt final, a grim punctuation mark on the mistake she could never take back. As Ivy walked away from the house, the weight of what she had done settled over her like a heavy shroud. She had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed, leaving a trail of hurt and betrayal in her wake. Now, she was left to face the consequence alone.